I feel like real estate isn't just a destination, it's a path and it's a journey, and you kind of pick up little things as you go. And one little niche in real estate will kind of open a door for another one, but then make you
Mhm.
stronger, just centered. And I think that's what's happened to me is started that duplex, well, really that lot, and then kind of did some little things along the way to find what I really want to do.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. I am excited because today we have Derek Harms. Now, Derek was suggested to me by the Norris Group, and some of my listeners probably know I have a profound and deep regard for the Norris Group. I both trust the integrity, the focus, and the approach of Bruce Norris himself, but I also like the heart and the again, integrity of Aaron Norris, Bruce's son, who now works over at Property Radar. And I really thought that was wonderful that they went, hey, you know what? You need to meet Derek because he's like you. He runs a club. He's an investor. He works with investors as a real estate agent. I work with them as a consultant, but he works with them as a real estate agent. You guys are the kin, and you need to know him better. I'm afraid I haven't got a chance to just hang with Derek very much, given our current environment of COVID. I haven't even had a chance to be to one of his meetings. So this is my second interview of him though. So let's dig in and let me tell you a little bit about him. So he's an active investor, award-winning realtor, president of the North San Diego Real Estate Investors Association, and now real estate partner of the San Diego Padres. Did I read that right?
You read that right.
Real estate partner. I got to find out more about that. Okay. Derek is connected to many different facets of the industry. He purchased his first investment property in 2010 for $22,500. I got to hear more about that. And since then, he's owned or been involved in single family flips, short sales, REOs, auctions, owner financing, mobile home parks, lending, property management, development, apartment building syndication. Are you guys getting a sense for how busy this dude's been? He currently spends most of his time managing the Derek Harms Group, focusing on single family and multifamily renovations and sales in the San Diego County. So he lives in La Jolla, and when he's not involved in real estate, which is actually very rare, he usually is, you'll most likely find him engaging in one of the fine outdoor activities that the city offers, including hiking, running, golfing, biking, camping, or fishing. And if you are looking at this on Roku or Amazon TV, then you can get a sense for, you look at him and you go, of course, that's what he does. Right? I'm sorry, but it is all over you. It's all over you. It's sort of like, I got to get out there and I got to hike, or I got to bike, or I got to, something in order to be out in the wild. And my daughter is the same way. She is always driven to be in nature. And I think it's a good and healthy thing. It's very grounding and very good for one's mind. So that's fantastic. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background in real estate. Let's just start there.
So how much time we got? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, we got about 45 minutes, maybe 40.
I'm messing. So it all started in college, and I'll make this concise. So in college, I wanted a trip to Europe as my graduation present. My dad at the time wasn't really that into real estate, but knew better than a trip to Europe. And instead of a trip to Europe, I was given a piece of land in Arkansas. And as a fresh college graduate, as 21, you have no idea what the heck to do with the piece of land in Arkansas. But he kind of guided me a little bit. We ended up cleaning up the lot and ended up selling it to a developer, and I made like $5,000 in a profit. And that was more money than I knew existed really as a 21-year-old college student. So that just got the wheels turning. Fast forward a few years, I needed to make money, so I became a bartender. Did that for a while. 2010 came around, and we all know what happened in 08, 09. And so I got curious. 2010, I found a duplex in Barstow, which is like halfway between LA and Vegas, kind of an area.
I know Barstow.
Sorry for anyone that's listening from Barstow. I didn't mean it, I promise. Save the emails. No, I bought a duplex for $22,500 and ended up going out there every morning. I would bartend at night. In the morning, I'd go out there, clean up these units. After a few months, I got them cleaned up, got them leased up, and then learned how to be a little bit of a property manager. And a few months later, ended up selling the property for $52,000 to a regular at my bar. So a guy that I serve drinks to every day ended up buying it and giving me the spark I needed to realize that method was way better than serving cocktails. So took a little bit of a risk after doing that, got out of the bar scene, started buying properties at tax deed auctions online based off of a 3-day seminar that I took. And at that point you're young and you see the light and you just kind of go for it. And I got really lucky because I bought a terrible house in Florida, and I just kind of went for it, moved out there, bought it. And I can say I got lucky because there was a lot of backed up liens on the property that I couldn't find in the title report, and environmental liens. And luckily the county was super happy I was cleaning this place up. So they wiped the slate clean, but I could have lost a lot of money, but I got lucky and ended up turning that into a nice return. The news covered it because this house has been so much of an eyesore for years. So I got some press that way, and it kind of just organically grew. And then I realized I didn't want to be in Florida summer heat. So I moved back to San Diego, and here I am now. And now, like you mentioned in the bio, kind of have done a little everything. I skipped the segment where I bought and flipped and held on to mobile home parks. I don't really own any more of those, but I did that for a couple years. But now I like San Diego. I like San Diego real estate. That's what I do.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 35.
Because your career sounds almost as diverse as mine, and I'm definitely older than you are. I've been doing real estate for 30 years, going on 35. So congratulations on how much you've managed to get done in a very short amount of time. And yet it looks like you've learned along the way.
Absolutely. I've definitely learned along the way. Haven't had too many really tough learning lessons. I've had a few, which I know we're going to get to.
Yep, we will.
That hurt. But I feel like real estate isn't just a destination. It's a path and it's a journey, and you kind of pick up little things as you go. And one little niche in real estate will kind of open a door for another one, but then make you stronger, just centered. And I think that's what's happened to me is started that duplex, well, really that lot, and then kind of did some little things along the way to find what I really want to do.
It's good that you've done those, because I don't know that I spent so much time going off to the side, like you've described, mobile home parks versus flips versus lots. I have done different investments along the way, but it's primarily, I've noticed as I look through my career, it's been residential. Like I've done 30 years of some version of residential. I've owned rental units. I've owned short-term rental units. I've done hard money loans against residential. Whether it's a primary residence or whether it's a flip, I have flipped. I have done lot splits. I've done condo conversions, all residential, right? Owned apartment buildings, all residential. Smaller units, 12, 18, 30, larger unit, 200. Like I've owned these different units, every single one of them residential. And so I unintentionally had a relatively focused career on one basic asset class, just as many different ways I could get to them. I've never bought on the court steps though. I've not.
But you know what? It's everything you just mentioned kind of, everyone listening needs to realize the one thing that will never go out of style is a roof over people's heads, right? So if you focus on residential, you always have a business.
I always have a business.
Yeah.
Right? And even in COVID, I always have a business, right?
Yeah.
So we can
probably even more so.
Well, we may or may not even discuss COVID as a topic, as a primary thing in this conversation, but we'll see. So, but right now, what you do is right now.
Yep. So right now, I mainly operate my company here, which acquires, renovates, and resells single-family homes, small multifamily properties here in San Diego, as well as a portfolio of rentals. And typically, lately, the rental portfolio has been mainly duplexes that I'll buy and convert either existing garages or add third units to them. So I'm turning 2 into 3s. And that's been really, really good the last year and a half. And I have some really cool deals because of it. And so mainly I'm flipping single family houses, finding duplexes to add ADUs to as well to hang on to. And then also I have the realtor component of my business, which I really enjoy being a realtor. I don't enjoy the daily routine of being a realtor. I enjoy helping people buy and sell homes and the things it does for them financially and for their family. But I think I enjoy the investment side of this so much more, in the numbers and no emotion, and really like the runway is so much longer in this game. So I like that so much more. And then you asked me about the Padres thing earlier. So really cool opportunity, actually. Very few real estate agents in the country have an opportunity to partner with a major league sports franchise. And this option was presented to me a year and a half ago, before the 2019 season. And essentially the brokerage I'm with, which is Compass, created a partnership with the San Diego Padres that Compass was going to build what's called the Compass Premier Club within Petco Park, which is this amazing exorbitant lounge in San Diego's Petco Park. It's the nicest one in the stadium. It's huge. It's right behind home plate. And they wanted select agents to be the face of this partnership. And so you had to be invited, and you had to make sure that you passed the test essentially and check the boxes. And I was chosen, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's funny, I just got the terms of the 2021 season yesterday, and it's just amazing how fast things can change in this country, given the COVID regulations and such in pro sports. So it may look a little different this year, but that's essentially what it's been.
Okay, so I confess, I did listen, but I actually don't understand. So, because I don't know Echo Park, I don't know any of this. So are you representing selling seats? Are you representing selling houses to the players? Like, I'm sorry, you have to explain it again. Tell me again.
No problem. So there is no direct connection between, hey, you're going to get to sell the houses for all of the major league ball players, right? That's a relationship you have to really work to earn and actually have those connections. So basically what it is it's a reciprocal relationship where we our brokerage designed this club within Compass, and in turn they get a select few of their agents to get their branding and their face on the Jumbotron videos before games within the Compass Premier Club. All of our listings get shown within the stadium. So it's just that extra piece of connection. And you get club seats, you get the networking that goes with all the high net worth individuals that are in the club. So it's kind of a brand builder.
Okay, I get it. So it's a supportive win-win relationship. So you guys get you get to use their platform and do some of your own advertising, but you also get access to the people that are there inside that exclusive club. And if a ball player says, hey, I like how Derek's grounded and straightforward and tells the truth, let's hang out with him, let's have him help us, then that's the advantage you get.
And absolutely. And one thing that's funny, and I think this is worth noting, is the most value I got from that partnership so far was not with any person I met within the club that's going to be a client or I'm going to sell a house for or whatever. The best relationships I got were with the other agents that were part of this group, because not many other agents buy and flip houses and own, buy rentals, etc. So multiple of these agents within this group have brought me deals as Derek's taking their realtor hat off and putting the investor hat on, maybe way more money than probably 5-10 clients that I would have picked up through that as just wearing the realtor hat. So that to me has been the gift that keeps on giving, because as you know, once you make a relationship with an agent, you perform and you're good to work with, then you keep getting that phone call when the next deal comes.
Yeah, and it really is. I have a gentleman who's become a friend, who specializes basically in larger flip properties in the Pasadena, Altadena, Arcadia area. And because that was the flips I was doing, he had basically this group of investors, probably about 5 or 6 of us, of flip teams. And he'd go, okay, I got a property. Which flip team would like to have this property? And he flipped some of them himself. And then he'd be like, no, I don't want another one, or I don't want this size, or I don't want this neighborhood, or whatever it is. And he would help, he actually would go so far as to advise us, because he's actually really good at interior design too. So he'd bring us the
Sounds like someone I
property.
know.
Somebody you probably know.
Okay.
He'd bring us the property and he'd do the design work for us. And then he'd sell us the property, right? He'd sell the property for us on the other side, because he had brought us the property to begin with. And then he stayed engaged as a team member all the way through. So of course we use him to sell as well.
Mhm.
So it's a very good relationship. And like you said, it really isn't just about a single home, like a single transaction, because, you know, a baseball player might buy and sell once every 5 years. But if you've got relationships with agents that are constantly scouring houses, and then they go, hey, you know what, this homeowner just doesn't want to do any rehab on it, but they're looking, they want to be able to sell it quickly in 40 days. I know exactly the person to take it to, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's actually, I find to be a very successful model based on my external observation, because I'm obviously not that person, so I'm observing from the outside.
Sure.
So, but it's good. It's a good model. So it must keep you incredibly busy, though. It's good to hear that you actually prefer the investment side over the real estate agent side. Like, the real estate agent side is great, but the investment side is what brings you passion and joy and a sense of focus in your world. So if you were trying to place yourself in this sort of, I'm going to give you the tips and tricks question. So if you were trying to place yourself in this little sub-market called, I'm a real estate agent, but really I'm an investor as well, what do you think is the best combination about those two? And why would you even suggest that to somebody else?
Yeah, you know, I think that there's this stigma of you shouldn't be a real estate agent if you want to be a real estate investor, or there's like, hey, there's a big downside to it, a bunch of risk involved. And I've found that that's not true, right? I feel like there's risk involved in being an investor no matter what. And if you're going to have the broker license as well with it, you just have to make sure you're very clean on your disclosures. And you know, I found some ways around this. We can get into the weeds, but essentially I would just say, for me, it's been groundbreaking, because most of the relationships I generated early on as simply Derek the agent have now grown and blossomed into these relationships of, hey, every one of these people now knows that I'm Derek the investor. So I get all their phone calls from when a deal comes to the table, and they know, just based off years of working with me through just standard real estate transactions as an agent, that, hey, this guy's good to work with. And so I've found that really helped. You learn the language faster when you're buried in car forms and transactions and escrows, and you just learn how to speak the language and sound competent. And you're around a ton of different real estate. And if you're going to work in a market or sub-market, and you really need to get familiar with it. And the only way to do that at a high level is to go look at a bunch of real estate. I think you do that a lot when you're a broker. You go to broker caravans. You know, you look at different real estate every Friday, along with all the other agents. You get to know all the affiliates and the trades. So for me, I think it was a really good place to start. And when I look around and I talk to a lot of my mentors and really high net worth real estate individuals, a lot of them have similar paths. A lot of them started with the real estate license as an agent. You got your feet wet, and then you kind of dove off into this little niche and then let it grow. So I think there's so many ways to leverage both sides of this, and it's just exponential the way, as far as you want to take it.
You know, I love to hear that. I was invited to speak one time at a real estate agency, because the guy who was the head of the agency, or the head of that office, would intentionally bring educational, you know, presenters to the office once a week or whatever. And I don't know if they were required to come or not required to come, but he's like, Christina, you got to come talk to these guys. You got to come talk to them about what it means to be a real estate investor versus a real estate agent, right? And I asked at one point early on, because I wanted to know who my audience was, I was like, okay, guys, so how many of you guys want to be a real estate investor? Like at least 50% or 60% of the hands were raised in the room. They want to someday be a real estate investor. I said, how many of you guys today own a real estate investment property? 2 hands raised. And I was like, wow, okay. And as I was talking to these guys, and I was walking, it was mostly men, truth be told, in the room. And I was walking them through, like, what's some of the mindset of being a real estate investor. One of the questions I got back to me were like, but are you sure that really works as a deal? But I'm not sure that those numbers really work, or that really would, or how would I partner with somebody? Why would I give up my real estate agent fee in order to get a piece of the deal, right, as an opportunity down the line? And I kind of went, wow, it's interesting, because I could see I was looking at a room full of people that had thought through real estate, because these were commercial, right? They all did residential commercial, apartment buildings and stuff like that. I could see they had so learned the numbers that they didn't hold the passion for the vision of what it meant to be an investor. Does that make sense? Almost like being a real estate agent had worked against them, and learning all of the details as an agent had worked against them from seeing the possibility of working on a building.
Could not agree more. And I see that a lot, and I'm not going to name any names, but
yeah, we can't name any names, because
I've recently had conversations just like this with multiple of the top producing agents in San Diego County. And I mean, over $1 billion sold, and tens, if not 100 million a year. Like these people are the bad in our industry. And same questions is, okay, well, what do you own? And only one of them was able to say they owned anything other than their own home, which was really, really mind-boggling to me. When we're around these people as an agent, and you work with other investors as your clients, and you see what they're doing, you see the portfolio, you see how these things compound, and they give you so many options long term, yet you just haven't really taken the plunge. And I don't know if that's just a mindset block, or if there's more to the story, but it's a paradigm that I think I really want to see agents shift. Now that's my philanthropic feeling, but on the other side, it's like, I get so many agents that'll bring me a deal, and I look at it and I'm like, this is such a great deal. Why don't you just buy this yourself? And they just don't want any part of it. And I'm like, great, I'm more than happy to buy this. And you keep all the commission. I'm stoked. And so, there's both sides of that, but I think anyone that comes to me and wants a genuine answer and response, I always say, look, you're only gonna get wealthy by owning assets that grow in value over time. And you're not going to do that for a commission check. It just won't happen. You can make a nice living, but you'll never be free. Yeah,
it's really, and you're right. That's kind of where I'm going in my thinking, is like, well, why be a real estate agent that's an investor? And there are some people who get that, whose mindset works that way. They go, yes, that's a natural course. That makes perfect sense to me.
I think the amount of ways to leverage being both an investor and an agent are endless. And I'd encourage anyone who is listening to this and maybe hasn't quite either made the transition to being a real estate investor, or you're not even interested, you don't even know if you want to be in real estate yet, and you just heard that this might be a good idea, and you want to get your license first. Well, either way I think is great, but at the end of the day, getting your license will help you get a job, and it'll help you learn the language, and it'll help you be able to learn how to communicate with other people in real estate, which is important. But keep your eyes on the prize. You need to invest in assets that will grow in value over time. That's how you become wealthy. That's how you create cash flow. And talk to any wealthy people. Just look at their portfolio and how do they do it? Did they do it earning a paycheck every 30 days after a closing? Maybe initially, but they leverage that into asset ownership. So I think that it's as long as you have your eyes on the prize, then I think being a real estate licensee is great.
It's well said, because I know lots of people who are like, oh, I want to be a real estate agent. I'm like, do you want to be a real estate agent, or do you want to be an investor, or do you want to be a real estate agent that specializes in investing so that you can someday be there yourself? Like, I've never been a real estate agent, but I'm a consultant, and the consulting and running my own club keeps me deep inside of the real estate industry and people who are in the industry. So the two work really well together, because I'm a consultant on real estate and I'm a real estate investor. And so the two are constantly feeding each other, even though I have this job called being a consultant.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. And I didn't mention that earlier, and you just brought it up, is like, I can't tell you how many times that because you're in this room with someone, or you're in this specific scenario, but they just need someone to help them write an offer on this property that they want to buy, or their in-law needs to sell their house and they don't have a realtor. It's like having that tool in the belt I mean, you can easily just flip 100K into your pocket each year simply just by the people you know. You don't even have to go out and market it and, you know, be this big time broker. Once you get established, you're going to have enough people who want to work with you no matter what. And the fact that you can do this at a high level in your license, for me is just a spigot that I don't want to turn off because I don't have to work that hard to generate it.
And I think it's important, the operative word is once you've established yourself, because once you've established yourself and you have your investing side feeding your contacts on your real estate side, and you have your real estate side literally feeding you properties into your investment side. So what you're doing effectively is real estate all day, every day, then the two work really well together. So I'm going to switch a little bit. You are a real estate investor. You own doors of your own. I think they're primarily at this point rental doors, right? And you said sometimes you buy, rehab, and rent, right? So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, right? Some of them some people call that the Burr method. I don't know if you've heard of the Burr method or not, but yeah. Okay, so tell me, like, there's two directions I'm going to go with this. One is like, tell me your worst story in being an investor in real estate, and what did you learn? Because I have a rule of thumb. I'm a hard money lender as well, right? So if I'm going to lend money to a flipper, I'm going to lend money to somebody who wants to do a value add of whatever kind that is. One of my questions is, so tell me how you had something wrong happen or your worst investment, and tell me what you did with it. And it raises my respect of them when I can have that conversation, because I think a lot of people in real estate are like, oh, I never have a problem. I never have any losses. If I tell anybody I'm going to have any losses, people are going to like never invest with me, or I won't be able to use other people's money. And I'm like, no, I'm an other people's money person. And if you can't tell me how you've lost your backside in something, I kind of don't want to give you my money.
Oh yeah.
So tell me your worst story in real estate and tell me what you did.
So I think, so I have a few, right? I mean, we've all, like you said, I think
I'll have a few.
Yeah.
Yep.
If we've done this long enough, you're going to make some mistakes along the way. And granted, now I make much less than I used to, but you know what, that's a learning process. And so I think like the biggest mistakes that I made were, I have a few different properties that I could reflect, but those are kind of long stories. But I think that a lot of people will feel the pain, at least in San Diego, because the end of 2018 got a little weird once interest rates rose a little bit. We saw in San Diego, at least, we saw a decline in sales. We saw essentially just a pause button on transactions here in San Diego.
And this was 2018?
2018, the end of 2018. Remember it vividly. Interest rates went up like a point, and it freaked out all the buyers. Yeah, I went up to what, from like 3.5 to 4.5.
You sound like it's like 3.5 to 4, like, you know, from 3 to 4 or from 4 to 5. Like, okay,
yeah, and it's still historically low, but everyone's jaded, and you know that. But I think that just kind of showed how volatile and how important rates are. I think, you know, a point jump kind of priced a lot of people out and got them freaked out a little bit in the affordability index there. But in San Diego, it got weird. And you talk to any house flipper that was doing any sort of volume at that time, they all remember the end of 2018. And we had multiple properties at that time that probably shouldn't have bought in the first place, but the worst one was over $100,000 loss.
It's good to know. It's good to know now. You can be able to look at it. But keep going. $100,000 loss. That's ideal. Tell me more. That's exactly the story I want to hear. Tell me more.
Over $100,000 loss, and it actually didn't start that way. It started as a flip that put it on the market. Everything went great. Opened escrow, cash buyer. Like, this was like the dream flip. And it wasn't a huge home run. I think it was like scheduled to make like 30, 40K, but like, well, you'll take that. And it was a longer escrow, and the buyer needed it for their the sale of their other home. I vetted that sale really well, and I knew the complex that this woman's home was in. I knew it well. It was a Rancho Santa Fe. Strong buyer on their side. Like, it checked the boxes for a contingent sale. Obviously there's always a layer of risk with those, but sure enough, we get into the escrow, go farther down the line. They do their inspections, and a few things come up. They always do, and we agreed to do all of them. And even after agreeing to do all of them, this woman decided to back out of the deal. Interest rates went up during this escrow, or like before it, and then they went up, like the Fed agreed to a larger rate, and it increased, and it jumped rates up even further. And then we hit a standstill. And this particular property was a 55 plus community, and it was a floor plan that it was a 2-bedroom, which in this area 3 bedrooms were what you wanted. And it was didn't really have much of a yard, but it had a nice view. And so essentially we followed this escrow and put it back on the market. Can't get a buyer for a long time. Finally get another buyer to put it back in escrow. And this whole time we're paying carrying costs. And it's in an HOA that has really high HOA payment. So it's really eating at you every month that it's just sitting there vacant. Get another buyer in escrow, and we get through the inspection period and come to an agreement. And it was mellow at this point. We'd already done everything. Had one of the gnarliest that winter in San Diego was like one of the gnarliest rainstorms we've ever gotten in San Diego County, like record level waterfall, roof collapses. And
oh no,
yeah, so water,
no, you already lost your profit just on your holding costs, and now you got a roof you got to fix.
It's gone.
Oh,
so
dude.
roof comes in, water everywhere. It's all over the stagers furniture. It's all over the wall, drywall. It's wet. It's moldy. Like buyer freaks out, takes off.
Yep.
So now we lose a buyer. We have a roof that we have to fix. We have essentially now a property that has a stigma in the marketplace because it's fallen out of escrow.
Yeah, that's the fell of the escrow twice, and the neighbors are gonna say, "Oh yeah, we remember that. The roof fell in. How's the inside smell? You got mold in there?"
That's exactly right. And it's a 55 plus community. Rates had gone up. It was in the higher price point 55 plus community. So, and I think what I learned from this too is that, seniors are very frugal with their money. They have to be, because, this is the end of life essentially. And I don't want to sound, sound morbid, but that's essentially what it is. And so it was a beautiful place, but the buyer pool was so small, and I had done really well on a 55 plus house beforehand, but I didn't factor in a lot. So anyway, back to the house. We finally get the roof fixed. We get the stagers furniture. Eventually we just get rid of the staging because it was costing too much. And we were so far, in the red on this at this point. Tried every marketing trick I could think of, a creative marketing trick. We had someone go by and like sage the house. Just like stuff. At this point, it's been sitting in the market. We're now like 9-10 months. And our note is a 12-month note. So at this point, we're almost reaching maturity. And the lender we used at this point had pretty aggressive note extension terms. So we're running every scenario we can. And by the grace of God, like month 11, we found a buyer and ended up opening escrow. And this thing actually closed with 2 days to spare on the note maturity out into 12 months. But yeah, the P&L showed over 100K loss. And you know what? I vividly remember that put me in a weird mental place for a minute. But I'll never forget it. I was sitting in my office, and I was feeling kind of gross about this deal, and like, all right, like what'd I do wrong? Like, am I cut out for this? Like and then I remember vividly having the mindset of like, all right, forget that, Derek. You need to learn from this. You need to grow from this. You're going to come out better. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I still remember that to this day. I think about it all the time, because like that was a moment for me that shifted the trajectory of the next couple of years. And the last two have been really, really profitable and really amazing, actually. So that was definitely the worst deal I've ever done. And but I did take lessons from it.
Nice description. I really appreciate the authenticity, because of course I asked myself the same question. I am such a loser. I mean, loser on what I have just done and what I am physically losing in the market as of today, this month, whatever it is. Should I really be doing this?
Yeah.
Right. And then you answered that question. What was the answer? You said a light bulb went off, but what was the wording of the answer?
I'd be lying if I said I can remember exactly, but the gist of it was, yes, you should be doing this, and you need to turn this from a loss into a learning experience. And you just spend $100,000 on an education, and this is, and you need to remember this, and you need to use this as fuel moving forward. So it wasn't, I don't have like a concise, statement that was like, this is the one. I wrote it down and I look at it every day, but it was along those lines, like, hey, this happened. It's okay. Let's process it. Let's accept it, and then let's learn from it, and let's be better.
No, that's perfectly good. It's a perfectly great answer, truly, because everybody who I know who's been in real estate for a long period of time, at some point, there is that moment, there is that learning experience, and you either choose to leave real estate or you choose to continue in real estate. And it really is a 10-year, 20-year, 50-year choice in that moment to either leave real estate or to stay, because it will hand you your backside and it will make you question, should I really be doing this?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And it was like I had the realtor hat on as well. And I was like, should I just focus on that and not have any risk? Because, right, like with the investment comes the risk, but with the risk comes the reward. So I remember having that conversation with myself, and I'm glad that I was able to have enough wisdom to not go that direction. But you spent the next 4 or 5 properties, buying in order to pay off your debt here, and maybe not that many, but you get the point. Like now you have to fill the hole back that you just dug.
So let me ask you a few more questions, if I may.
Of course.
So we got the emotional lesson, which to me is the most important lesson out of all of it, is the emotional lesson, the choice of who you're going to be moving forward. How did you manage the loss financially? If you didn't have $100,000 in the bank to be able to say, okay, I'm going to lose $100,000, right? How'd you manage the loss? I mean, was it a short sale on the note? Was it did you have other people's money in the game and you said, hey, can you wait a little bit on payoff? Like, how'd you manage it?
So I had a business partner at the time that what we did was we had multiple other properties going, and so we essentially just put the loss as a liability on the balance sheet, and at this time we actually had a couple other losses. And then I'm telling you, this time in the market was rough here, and I can't just blame it all on the market, right? That would be unfair. I
don't know. I lived through 2008 and 2009. Honestly, I can blame a lot on the market. Now, what I can't blame on the market is me selling my condo conversion, like at the bottom of the market when multi-units were the first to recover. Like that, I can't blame on the market. That was me. That was pure, I'm scared. I don't know what the frick I'm doing. I'm losing too much. I can't manage this. I'm fighting with my husband. I just have to be done. If I had but known that I could have lasted another 4 months, right? And I would have recovered. It would have recovered by more than 50%, if not 75. I mean, the market I'm trying to remember, I did the analysis years ago, but the multi-unit market was the first to recover after the downturn in 2007, 8, and 9, and it was like 75% recovered within 12 months or something like that. Like literally the loss that it took and then recovered back up again. So
I think you could also argue to that fact, though, that maybe you can blame the market, but can you also look introspectively and say, hey, I should have seen this coming in the market. If I would have done a little bit more diligence on the market factors in play, should I have been in a better position? And I'm not saying back 2008 was cataclysmic, and I think most people didn't see it coming. And so that's not my point, but
I wasn't getting I call it the postcard or the memo from Bruce Norris. Okay. What I have learned is I no longer assume that I'm traveling separately from a much larger market, and that market will always define for me. And I need to that's my lesson. I've never forgotten from that. Right. And so I pay attention, and I go to Bruce Norris and I do economic updates, and I watch the economy, and I don't care anything about politics. What I care about is what is going to happen to my real estate because of the politics. So it was a core lesson for me that I now, something I never paid any attention to, I now give a good deal of time to. So, so yes, I have to take responsibility for being prepared as an investor, which I think is what you're saying.
Exactly. And like when I've been doing this for 30 years, like yourself, like I can't wait to kind of look back on the wisdom that will have earned me. And I know that for you, it's probably immense. But I think that is the point you just made is something I have learned as well, is that real estate is not just about real estate. It's about so many other factors that go into this. And you really need to at least have a cursory understanding of what's going on outside of just your little bubble. And I think that I didn't know that early on. So I enjoy those things now. And I'm a podcast nerd and, economic studier. And I love these things now because they all bring it home.
I agree with you 100%. So you got into a project, you lost 100,000 on it. You had a partner that helped you fill the gap as you could work your way back out of it. You worked your way back out of it, and you probably made good on it with your partner if it's the conclusion of that part of the story. What did you learn about real estate in particular on how to not do that again? Like one time I bought this older house and we were just going to open up to put insulation in. And then when we opened up the walls, we realized that the outside of the house and then the board that they used to put the outside of the house up, which was not even a 2x4, they attached the drywall to it.
Oh.
So there wasn't actually a 2x4 between the outside paneling and the outside boards of the house and I'm like, I've learned a whole new lesson on specific to real estate. Like, well, if the house is earlier than 1920, maybe I need to, right?
Yeah.
So what did you learn in this case? I mean, is it because a collapsed roof? I don't know. Like, what'd you learn about real estate and how you would look differently at your next purchase?
So I took a couple things away from this, and at this time, this wasn't the only loss that we had. There were other properties too, and I think going back to this, and even though this deal we had in escrow and was going to be a nice profit, and if that buyers would have closed, we probably wouldn't be talking about this property right now. But okay. I think initially it goes back to the underwriting, and I think I've gotten progressively more conservative with my underwriting. And at that point, it was about maybe doing more deals just to do deals rather than doing really, really quality deals. And I think most of these deals that we had as a loss actually had buyers in escrow for nice, healthy profits. And then we lost them and got a little bit of pressure from the market as well. And it kind of created a snowball effect. But I still think goes back to good underwriting, and it goes back to not limiting your buyer pool. In a 55 plus community, you're limiting, like, I don't know the exact data, but I imagine like 3/4 of the buyer pool out there are probably under 55. So that to me was like, okay, do I want all of my eggs in the basket of, hey, this house can be bought by anyone, or no, this will only be bought by a small percentage of people who are typically budget conscious. So I think that kind of factored in. It's like, all right, let's look at these external factors and just make sure that I have an asset that can be acquired by the masses, not by a small niche. So I think those two things.
Okay, sounds good. So I have one other question, which is, now that we have established that real estate can both be rewarding and can be difficult, and it will challenge you to find the best of yourself in order to move forward, what is it about real estate? Why are you doing it? Not just a job, but as an investor with a higher risk, or why are you doing it? What is it going to give you that has you be so committed to it?
I think it's just one word. It's called freedom. And what does that mean to me? That means owning enough assets that will passively create me enough monthly income to cover and then some over my lifestyle, my living expenses. And I think once you do that, now you're free to go do whatever you really want. And I know that for me, at least, once I get to that level, I'm not quite there yet passively. We factor in the flip income, of course, but you and anyone listening that flips houses knows that it's a job. Yeah, it's a job. It's a job.
It's a job.
Putting out fires daily, so it's a lot. But it's about being able to do what I want when I want with who I want, and I know that I'll never truly get away from it. I love the deal. I love the new deal. I love the development side. I love the redevelop. I just like this stuff. So I'm gonna be doing it probably forever. But and I think that's how you compound this freedom and this cash flow and all. You compound it by you're still in the game always. You have this freedom already, but you just found one or two more deals that are going to help, put more fuel on this fire. And then before you know it, you're Bruce Norris.
You're Bruce Norris. That's right. Before you know it, you're Bruce Norris.
That's right.
Yeah? And you're selling everything in Los Angeles and moving to Florida and starting a whole new construction project out there, right? But yeah, before you know it, you're Bruce Norris, or anybody else that's been our mentors in this field that say, hey, it's worth being able to have your financial freedom, whether it's control of your time, doing what you want to do when you want to do it. I've had some people say it's control over their integrity, because they can choose to live their life and not have to have a boss say, hey, you have to do X, Y, and Z, even if it's outside of their integrity. So, everybody has their vision in their mind that says the reason why I choose to be an investor and the reason why I choose to grow my financial freedom, financial leadership is because I can see the freedom in my head. Someday, maybe I'll get there, whether it's leaving a legacy for my children, whether it's financial freedom for myself and peace of mind when I choose to retire, whether it's taking care of my sister or my wife, or whether it's just really saying, you know what, I love to travel and I want to be able to travel easily without having to worry about having a job. And the best way I can do that is by having this entrepreneurial life or this portfolio that brings me my checks in the mail.
Absolutely. Right? That's a great point. And even though I actually believe in that wholeheartedly, I didn't mention it, but it's the legacy you'll leave down to your family. And, it's done right. I mean, it's generational wealth.
It is. And if done right is a good description, because it's, there are ways to leave it to your children and ways to even leave trust to your grandchildren and ways to leave insurance policies that go to your grandchildren. And I call it the being stupid. So if I'm really stupid, there is a life insurance policy on my daughter who is now 11. And so as long as even if I totally mess up and I don't leave my daughter anything and my daughter doesn't leave her kids anything, there's going to be something left to them that I invested in now. Right. And I call this the anti-stupid policy, right? Just to make sure, because I might still be stupid. I really might still be stupid, right?
Yep.
All right. It's all good. This is perfect. So Derek, thank you for your time. Wonderful to have you on the show. Is there any people want to get a hold of you, whether they want to use you as a real estate agent, or they have a house that they think that would be perfect for you and what you're doing, or they just simply want to pick your brain? How do they get a hold of you?
So you can go to my website, derekharmsgroup.com. I don't mind leaving my cell phone. I'm a real estate broker, so it's everywhere anyway. It's 858-444-7752, or best email is derek.harms@compass.com.
There you go. I give you your phone number out one more time.
It's 858-444-7752. And then one last thing is, you mentioned the real estate club that I run. So here in San Diego.
I should have asked you about that. Please go ahead.
It's okay. No, it's the North San Diego Real Estate Investor Association. And we used to meet the third Tuesday of every month in Oceanside, which is in North County, San Diego. Obviously, everything has been virtual since COVID has reared its ugly head into our lives. But we do still do our meeting the third Tuesday of every month. You can check it out, nsdrei.org. And just next week, although I don't think this will air before then, but it won't. So it doesn't even matter. But we have some really cool speakers lined up for the rest of 2021. So come check us out.
That's perfect. Well said. All right. Thank you so much for listening to Real Estate Breakthrough. I am Christina Suter, your host. You can find us on Roku, iHeartRadio, podcast, iTunes. You can find us on a variety of platforms. But if you go to christinasuter.com, you can also get access to other free information and on YouTube. So thank you so much for listening to Real Estate Freedom Breakthrough.